time where disruptions have not only East African community has lost enormous amounts of dollars on export and import, a lot of NTBs that have cropped up because of course, the control measures that have been instituted by each partner state in trying to control the spread of the virus. But also the investments have not been spared. A lot of investments have really been disrupted as well. And hence time to come and put together concerted efforts to bring back the attractiveness of our region in terms of investments. We all know that we enjoy different direct investments, and where the source has also been affected and still suffering even more than the East African region. So it is time to pull our look at how do we also bring back the investments, but how does the intra-EAC trade and investment also come at the forefront of this journey as we recover slowly from the effect of this pandemic. So as East African Business Council, we took it upon ourselves, and that is now our mandate to bring together our investment authorities from our region to discuss in detail how have they been affected, how are there any reforms that have been brought forward, and what is new to our members, our manufacturers, our agriculture business operators, our service investors, what is new and what is in stock for them in our respective partner states. So it is important that we bring up this, and we are happy that you honestly responded to our invitation, and we do not take your invaluable time for granted, and we really thank you so much. So without taking so much time, I will invite Dr. Peter Mathuki, who is the CEO of the East African Business Council, to give welcome remarks, and maybe later invite the chairman of the EABC, Mr. Nick Nesbitt, to give his official opening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Geoffrey. Thank you, Geoffrey. I know we apologize for a few minutes late. We have about 2 hours to run this very important virtual conference on trade and investment opportunities in East Africa post-COVID. And Chair, I want to bring you to speed in terms of those who are here. We have our partners. We have World Bank in attendance. We have GIZ, our Germany, development partners. We have Trademark. We have BDI, Germans, and of course we have trade, all the investment authorities in the region, all of them participating. We felt it's important that we have it at today, so that today we have 4 countries. Today we have United Republic of Tanzania, we have South Sudan, Burundi. Zanzibar will also be there to tell us how tourism is, of course, covered. Much as, of course, Zanzibar will be again covered by United Republic of Tanzania. And then tomorrow we are going to have a Republic of Kenya, Rwanda, and Ethiopia and DRC. So we want to see, of course, COVID has been with us. It was one of those guests that was not very much expected, but impacted businesses, our economies, and lives, the health. Therefore, with all this, as we close the year and prepare to usher in the new year, we are definitely here to see how can we prepare ourselves as East African Business Council, which is the apex body of a private sector in East Africa. And that's why we feel it's important, with your own guidance, Chair, that as we close the year, it's important that we bring our minds together, see how our economies have been affected, and start thinking together as a family of a private sector in East Africa. How do we prepare for 2021 going forward, whether with or without COVID, because lives must continue. And therefore, with all the disruptions that came into business, intra-EAC trade affected. Things like African Continental Free Trade Area are a bit slowed down. A number of meetings that you were expecting to hold are a bit delayed. But nonetheless, we still very much expectant to rebound and come back more stronger going forward. And that is why we have this very important conference chair so that we could think together. I think this being your opportunity, Chair, I think I want to introduce you to the audience, to those who are participating. Nick Nesbitt is the chair of the East African Business Council and doubles as a chair of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance in Kenya. I normally call him, he's a genius in business. And I can tell you, most of his time, and I've checked, he's busy trying to network and bring businesses into East Africa. He's made a number of trips at personal level, doing personal commitment and personal investment to even reach out to all those investors. He was in France, he went to Cairo, he's been talking to investors in other parts in Australia to see how they can come invest in East Africa. So I can tell you, I can almost read his passion, his mind, his heart, is to see how we can make this region great. And that will be possible if we speak together as private sector, see how we can closely work with governments. And that he has been carrying that mantle religiously. And therefore, Chairman, we want to thank you as you come in to talk to investors and the audience and make official opening of this Trade and Investment Opportunities Conference. Over to you, Chair, and I thank you.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much, Honorable Mathuki. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you clearly.
Okay, very good. Good, thank you. So, of course, this is absolutely unprecedented, what we've been going through globally and regionally and within our countries and communities. And so this is a very fitting time as we close the year, Honorable Mathuki and your team at EABC, for inviting us all to come and listen to what each other has to say about the year that has passed and provide hope for the future and provide full recognition, as we just did, to all those who have passed. It has been a tragic time, of course. We are grappling with an unknown disease. We are grappling with a lot of rumors, and we've been grappling with a lot of uncertainty. Somehow, we are all here, and we are becoming better and more equipped at how to deal with this pandemic, with our different philosophies as to how to essentially deal with it. In this part of the world, fortunately, we have been quite blessed, I would say, compared to our brothers and sisters in Europe and the United States and other regions who have really been hit hard. Regions that have perhaps higher incomes and even more resources at their disposal have really suffered. And so we also want to pay recognition to them for all of their losses. At the same time, many of the people who are from those countries who have stayed with us, whether it's from Trademark East Africa and BDI and GIZ from Germany and other donor institutions, we really want to thank you and acknowledge your presence and your commitment to sticking with us through this trying time. And I know for us at EABC, you've really been there to support us and help us get through these trying times, which are coming off perhaps even normal times, which are quite difficult. So I just want to say thank you to all of our development partners for supporting all of us and keeping us going. The other point I want to mention is, when things are rough, it's very important that you keep talking about possibility and hope and the future. It's rare to find a leader who is not optimistic. I think it has to be one of the characteristics of a good leader. Otherwise, you are all stuck looking at the top of the proverbial proverbial hill that you have to climb. And if the leader does not have a belief in how you can climb it, then you will all stay at the bottom and there will be no leadership. So for those of us in the crowd who are promoting stronger private sector within our own sectors, industry sectors, or within our own countries, and definitely within our regions, I want to say thank you as well. The investment promotion agencies, of course, for those of you who are on this call, you've been promoting your countries and the region as areas that are ripe for investment. We have a lot of the right characteristics. We've got the beautiful weather, of course, but more importantly is the people, well-educated people who are entrepreneurial, who have gone through harder times than this, let's say, who are used to some of the challenges, perhaps more than people are in other parts of the world. We've got a lot of the raw ingredients. And I also want to thank all of you in the promotion agencies for the work that you've been doing to ensure that the economies in the region continue to grow. So speaking about the economy, we've spent quite a lot of time here in KEPSA in Kenya, speaking with Parliament, speaking with the governor of the central bank, speaking with others about the state of the economy. And let me just say, fortunately, it is not as bad as it has been or how bad it is in other parts of the world. We had a terrible second quarter, but third and fourth are building, they're growing, and hopefully for many of the countries, they're also experiencing growth in some of their basic areas, we call it agriculture and other commodities. We know we have all suffered from the lack of tourism, but we are encouraged to see a large number of regional tourists traveling, and we continue to encourage them to be safe in their travel, in their behavior regarding COVID, and also in whatever means they use to travel around East Africa. So we further want to encourage that completely. I think we all have a responsibility to continue to improve the investment climate in East Africa. We need, as private sector organizations, to work closely with people in government to ensure that we don't overtax or create too much of a bureaucratic regime. Of course, regulators have the interest of the industries they represent to ensure that private sector companies don't go rogue. But if we can focus more on the rule and not the exception, meaning let's not create all kinds of rules and traps to catch the few people that could do something wrong and end up ensnaring and slowing down everybody else who's just trying to do things right. So we have to keep waving the flag of open markets, keep waving the flag of East Africa, keep waving the flag of we're all in this together and everybody has an impact on everybody else. That said, I remain concerned about the numbers of non-tariff barriers that keep popping up, where too many people have influence over making decisions about different things, meaning we have different ideas about what it takes for a truck to cross a border. There, should COVID tests be free? Should they be the same price on either side? Should one certificate from one country be accepted in another? And so on and so forth. There are challenges that pop up in different areas besides healthcare, challenges with certain commodities crossing, certain finished goods crossing. So I urge everybody in our respective areas to do what we can to ensure that whenever we are engaging in these topics, that we think bigger and think of East Africa as a whole and try and minimize all these disruptions that are inhibiting trade. If we can all do all of that and everybody become each other's brother and sister's keeper, we will indeed live up to the promise that we see in the PowerPoints that say that Africa is a very attractive investment destination. I talked about the people and the culture, but also the amount of infrastructure that's getting built and the levels of education that are high, which means that everybody can understand these concepts I'm talking about, which are really limit the friction that affects business and capital will flow. So with those few remarks, let me thank everybody for a very good year, considering all the circumstances. And let me wish everybody a safe and limited merriment, let me say, but a merry holiday season where it's time for you to reflect with your co-workers, colleagues, communities, and of course, families on what happened last year. And everybody be thankful for the lives we have and the opportunity next year to make a difference in other people's lives. So with that, Mathuki, let me say thank you, and let me welcome everybody to this investment conference, and thank you all for attending. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair, for your rich words as usual in motivating those, of course, investing and private sector in East Africa. I know every time you talk of NTBs, and indeed that being a big challenge to businesses, and the need to see East Africa as a one market and actualize it. You've said engagement with governments more and more, and trying to see how we can actualize this. And I'm sure at some point, if we work together, we become one other's brother or sister's keeper. Then we'll get there. We'll be able to overcome some of these challenges that are coming along our way. And yes, we look forward to a new year of 2021 that is promising, and that will be so if we continue speaking in one voice. Of course, we appreciated our development partners who have been with us even during this very difficult time, and indeed very important. And we expect that kind of cooperation, even going forward. So thank you very much, Chair.
Very good.
Now we'll be starting our sessions. We will be handing over this to our moderator, but thank you very much, Chair. You are most welcome to listen to what countries are saying. And of course, as a secretariat, to be able to make a report that you'll be able to submit again to the board and to the larger stakeholders to understand how we need to keep this community stronger. Thank you very much. So if Geoffrey, please proceed with the moderation. If you can call, and then we pick it from there. Geoffrey.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Chairman. Of course, I cannot repeat what my superior geniuses have said. That's well heard, and thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Edie, for those very comforting but also good words to East Africa. So if you can go straight to the business of the day, we will begin with the program, but maybe before we do the program, of course, every house must have rules, and we'll also be guided by the rules of this. In these 2 days, the rules that will guide us and how we conduct the business of the day. Of course, the ground rules will be that number one, you have to mute your microphone and video when you are not speaking. Of course, we have to contribute to the meeting goals. The goal is to ensure that we hear from each other. As the chairman said, we hear from what is in store for us from each other, from all over the partner states. Of course, it should have a regional perspective. Let's not nationalize the discussion. We'll have to focus on the topic of the day. It is trade and investment opportunities in East Africa post-COVID-19. Of course, then we shall have the questions to be sent to the chat room, and we have a back-end team that will be collecting those questions and throw them to our dear audience as well as panelists. Of course, the meeting will be recorded, and this is for reporting purposes, nothing else, so that we make sure that nothing is lost from what has been discussed here. Of course, the report will be shared to all of you that have shared your email addresses. Please, if you could also share email address in the chat room so that we can be able to share with you. Of course, we may keep our social media platforms very trendy. The Twitter handle is at EABC Arusha, and the hashtag for this virtual conference is at #InvestEAC. Maybe before we continue, I can see Mr. John Rusagara's hand up. probably would want to say something. Is one of our EABC esteemed board members, Mr. John. If you can just take you for a few minutes, just 1 or 2 minutes, so that we continue with the business of the day. Thank you, sir. You're welcome, Mr. John.
Thank you, Mr. Kamanzi. Good morning, everybody in attendance. Are we together?
Yes, we can hear you.
Morning.
Good morning.
We can hear you. Yeah,
Morning.
we can hear you.
Morning.
Proceed.
Thank you for organizing this virtual meeting. But to my understanding, I think it's imperative to know first where the wealth of our nations come from. The starting point and understanding national wealth creation is that the political class and the administrative class have learned the basic fact that prosperity comes from trade. So if you do not trade, you will definitely subside. Therefore, EABC has a big role to play in teaching East Africans this simple tenet so that they can understand where growth comes from. If you don't trade, you will definitely subside. As you may be aware, there are 5 sources of jobs in an economy. 1, commercial, agriculture. 2, industry. 3, services. 4, ICT. 5, public service. And in East Africa, for instance, there are about 12.5 million public servants. That means this sector is growing. Only accounts for less than 1% of the population. That means we can't rely on that to create growth or wealth. Even if you consider that each public servant looks after 5 people on average, so of these 5 sources of jobs, only the first 4 have the solution to our economy, providing wealth and job creation. But in order to be effective in the sources of jobs, there must be a market. And the bigger the market, the better. For instance, we have many items for trade, but the market is too small to absorb all of them. That's why we must focus on business and not civil service. In economics, we talk about 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. In East Africa, we have the first 2 in plenty, land and labor. But for the second 2, that's where the private sector comes in. All the actors in our countries should be helped to see that it is the private sector that should be used to activate the economy. This is a strategic ideological issue. It is that none of the EAC partner states has a future without East Africa. None of us in this region has a future without East African integration, and anybody who does not see this will definitely subside. In East Africa, we will collapse faster because our population is growing very fast. We have so many young people being born every year, and they all need jobs. How do we deal with that pressure? By creating jobs, those jobs rather. Also, these countries must realize that the competition is not against each other, but one of the comparative advantages. EAC was structured to focus on comparative advantages in each country. The political class has to sign formal agreements to achieve this, but the private sector can work it out without signing formal papers. They identify opportunities and work together. In some countries in East Africa, there are bottlenecks utilizing this comparative advantage, but that's why we should have a strong East African community to manage this. We should have serious economists at the EAC who can identify these bottlenecks and remove them so that all countries benefit from integration. I wish we have about 5 Bagamuhundas. Things will be okay. If you realize that our market in East Africa is our survival, then everything else will fall into place. The common external tariffs, for instance, are crucial for us to resolve. Why should we import so much yet we can increase manufacturing here in the region? If we don't do this, then we are not serious. The private sector has many proposals for the region to be successful in integrated. We should have harmonized the standard. That's obvious. Why should we not have uniform standard? If you allow the sale of substandard products one country, then you are cheating the citizens of that country. Private sector has come with suggestions that make sense. I agree with. But the problem is that most people do not start by understanding integration and how wealth is created. So on account of the foregoing, the private sector has the solution and should provide it. The business community should continue to engage the political and administrative classes using facts and figures so that you all understand this. Where does the wealth of nations come from? The private sector is the engine of growth, and we must encourage the private sector itself to grow and develop. That is the only way we as a region will develop. So, Mr. Coordinator, I want to submit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I want to thank you, General Sangara. And I know your passion is, your passion from many years. I've known you for over now close to 15, 20 years. You've been very passionate about regional integration. And clearly your remarks testifies that indeed you have emphasized the need to have a common market for East Africa, and the way we cannot survive as individual partner states without all of us working together as a community. Indeed, it has been your mantra. I want really to appreciate those very rich remarks. In fact, they are, I would say, they are the kickstarters of this conference. And I want to assure you, we are going to deliberate and see what comes out from those now on the ground. So I thank you, John. So now we proceed, Geoffrey.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Edie. Thank you, Board Member JB. And I like the part where you ended that the private sector has the solutions and must provide the solution. So that is very important to us, and it's a business of the day that we are in, to look for the solutions that bring the investments in our dear, rich region. So let's go straight to the presentations, and I want to first introduce the panelists that we have today that represent the partner states that are here today. We have Mr. Salum K. Nasul, the CEO of Zanzibar Investment Promotion Agency. Please, if you are around, just wave before we start, and then we shall give you the time. Mr. Nasul, are you around? Are you on the call? If you are on the call, just unmute your mic and say, I am around. And if he is not available, then we have Mr. John Matthew Mnali, representing Tanzania Investment Center. Mr. John, are you available?
Yes, I'm around.
Thank you so much, and you're most welcome. Karibu sana. We have Mr. Zephany Niyonkuru, the Deputy CEO of Rwanda Development Board, representing RDB, representing Madam Claire. Oh, karibu sana. Thank you so much, Mr. Zephany. We can see you. Your hand up. You can just put down your hand. Thank you. Then Mr. Martin Muhanji, representing Mr. Lawrence Biansi, for Uganda Investment Promotion Agency. Mr. Yes. Martin, karibu sana. Thank you. We also have Mr. Honorable Abraham Moliet Mamer, the Acting Under Secretary, Minister of Investment of South Sudan, Investment Promotion Authority. Are you around, Honorable? As I see, Ms. Nasria, are you representing him?
Yeah, he's representing Mr. Nasor. Sorry, I was a bit not here, but for Zipa, Nasria, representing Mr. Hamis Nasor, Zanzibar.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you to have you. South Sudan is available. Mr. Honorable Abraham Moliet Mamer, Acting Under Secretary, Minister of Investment of South Sudan, Investment Promotion. Maybe he'll join along the way, and I will be happy and delighted to have him. So straight, let's start with a presentation, because we are going to have presentations on the opportunities, investment opportunities and investment opportunities in the respective partner states, after which we shall have question and answer. Then after that, the deliberations will definitely have a closing remark. Thank you so much. So we'll begin with United Republic of Tanzania, and we'll have Mr. John Munali giving us a presentation of the trade and investment opportunities in the United Republic of Tanzania and how East Africans can tap into these opportunities. If there are any reforms that have been that have been introduced during this period, we'll be happy to listen so that the East Africans can come to Tanzania and invest in that very, very beautiful and rich country. Mr. John Matthew Munali, please take the floor and do your presentations. I kindly request that as the presentation is going on, kindly mute your microphone, kindly mute your microphone. And if you have a question, please raise your hand or put it on the chat room so that we can give Mr. John Matthew Munali his allocated 20 minutes. Thank you so much. John Munali, please take the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to upload my presentation.
As Mr. John Munali uploads his presentation, I request that let's have this discussion, let it have a regional perspective. Let's not nationalize any particular issue. Any matters that need national address, the EABC is there to address them at a national level. But let's have this is a regional conference, so let's have issues talking to the region and trying to address the regional issues in terms of trade and investment. So I hope, John Munali, your presentation will be beamed in a minute. I think we can see the presentation. We can see the presentation. Yes, we can view. Thank you, John.
Can you view the presentation?
Sure. And I hope all the participants can see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm John Matthew Munali. I'm the Director of Investment Promotion from Tanzania Investment Center. My presentation will be on the existing investment opportunities in Tanzania. In my presentation, I'll talk about the economic overview. Then I will discuss a little bit about the role of the One-Stop Investment Facilitation Center. Then I will also discuss a little bit about the investment incentives applicable to investors. Then I'll go into the investment opportunities, and that will be the end of my presentation. So basically, our vision, the vision of Tanzania, is to become a semi-industrialized country by the year 2025. And in order to do that, various institutions have been given responsibilities to promote and facilitate investors who are showing interest to come to Tanzania. So Tanzania Investment Center is one of such institutions which have been given the responsibilities. So the role of the Tanzania Investment Center basically is to attract investors to come to Tanzania, to assist them to obtain various permits, approvals, and licenses, and also to advise the government on all matters related to investment policy in Tanzania. Taking a view on the trend of the growth of our economy, you will see that for the period of almost 10 years, we have seen an average GDP growth rate of around 7%, with an increasing per capita income, increasing up to an average of $1,707 US dollars. In terms of GDP growth rate, these are the projections for the year 2020. Tanzania was projected to grow at an average GDP growth rate of 5.2%, above the regional average, as you can see. And Tanzania is also among the 10 largest economies in Africa. This is according to the International Monetary Fund. And apart from that one, going back to the role of the investment center, the government has stationed senior government officials under one roof in order to assist investors to obtain various permits, approvals, and licenses. So at the one-stop center, which is under Tanzania Investment Center, we have officials from the Commission of Labor, from the Department of Immigration, from BRELA. BRELA stands for Business Registration and Licensing Agents, from the environmental institution called NEMC. They are dealing with environmental issues. We have also officials from the National Identification Authority. So they are all stationed together. So the aim or the main objective is to make sure that once an investor shows interest and comes to Tanzania, then the investment center, the one-stop center, should be in a position to assist an investor to obtain all the required permits, approvals, and licenses. We understand that some of the permits are not under the one-stop center, but still an additional responsibility to the investment center is to make sure that even if that license or permit is not granted under the one-stop center, but the center will be responsible to make sure that they facilitate an investor to obtain the requested license. And recently, the investment center has been moved to the president's office, and the number of days to facilitate and obtain, to obtain various permits, approvals, and licenses have been cut down up to 14 days. And recently, the stakeholders in the facilitation of investments in Tanzania had their meeting to make sure that even those numbers of 14 days are reduced further. So we have agreed that between 7 and 14 days, 14 days will be maximum for an investor to obtain whatever license or approval is required in order to enable an investor to establish business. Now, in terms of incentives, of course, we have tax incentives and the non-tax incentives. On the tax incentives, all project capital goods which are imported in Tanzania for the investment projects are exempted from paying import duty. But we have also the so-called deemed capital goods. These are goods which are used for investment purposes, but they are not capital goods. And if that happens, then the investors will be required to list down those goods, and then they will get a relief of 75% from the import duty. But we have also some specific sectors which the corporate tax has been reduced. For instance, for the investors who are investing into the pharmaceutical, textile, and leather products, the corporate tax has been reduced to 20%. Whereas for the investors who are engaged into assembling of motor vehicles, tractors, or fishing boats, the corporate tax has been reduced to 10% for the first 5 years. But also we have capital allowance, which varies from one sector to the other. Agriculture has been given 100% capital allowance for the investors who are interested to invest in this area. In terms of other incentives, we have automatic immigration quota for the expats who are coming to work in Tanzania. They're allowed to, initially they're allowed to hire up to 5 expats, but it will also depend on the nature of the project and the type of skills that is required. So sometimes the number 5 can be extended depending on the requirement. An investor may need maybe in some cases up to 20 or 30 or 40. So it depends. So we are not fixed on this. We are very flexible depending on the requirement of an investor. So whoever is investing in Tanzania is allowed to repatriate his profit, whether he's paying the loans or royalties. It is allowed as long as an investor has already complied with a tax obligation for that specific company. In terms of categories of investments, we have normal investors, we have strategic investors, and we have super strategic investors. For the normal investors, if he's a foreigner, then the minimum capital requirement is $500,000 US, and for the local investors, he has $100,000 US. Strategic investors is $50,000 US, and the local for foreigners, For the strategic investors, the minimum capital requirement for foreign investors is 50 million US dollars, and for the local investors is 20 million US dollars. That is for strategic investors. For the super strategic investment status is above 300 million US dollars. Now, these categories of investors, they have an implication in terms of the incentives that an investor will need. For the normal investors, they will access the normal incentives given to the investors, the incentive package that I've just explained. But for the strategic investors, they will enjoy the normal incentives plus specific incentives that will be granted to that specific investment project. Now, in this case, we don't have a standardized package of incentives, but rather the investment incentives are given on a case by case, depending on the nature and the type of the project, and depending on the requirement of an investor. So the same applies for those who are applying for the super strategic investment status, because all these, the strategic investors and the super strategic investors, will be required to sign a performance contract whereby their obligations will be clearly stated, and the obligation of the government to that project will also be clearly stated. So for the strategic investor status, the criteria, as I've said, criteria number one is mandatory, the size of investment, which is 20 million for local investors, but 50 million for foreign investors. But the other additional criteria is the number of jobs. The project must produce or create significant number of jobs. It must use the technology that can also be applicable to Tanzanians, and the project must generate foreign exchange. And if the project is located in a geographically disadvantaged area or a special economic zone, now these can be used as additional criteria to support the application for the strategic investor status. Now, let me talk a little bit about the investment opportunities. As I've said in my previous slide, that Tanzania wants to become a semi-industrialized country by the year 2025. Now, in order to reach there, the manufacturing sector has been given the highest priority, particularly manufacturing of goods that utilize locally available raw materials. But in addition to that, we have selected some few other sectors which we are also looking for potential investors. So for instance, the additional sectors including assembling of motor vehicles, this has been given a priority, but the other one is pharmaceuticals, manufacturing of pharmaceutical and medical devices. This sector has also been given the highest priority because we are spending a lot of money to import pharmaceuticals and the medical devices from outside. Real estate, of course, is another area because recently we have shifted our capital from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma, and in Dodoma there is a demand for housing estates, residential apartments, office buildings, and conference facilities and shopping malls. So the opportunity in this sector is very, very high. But back to the agricultural sector, we are still importing a lot of sugar from outside, and so establishment of sugarcane plantation and the processing facilities has been given the highest priority in order to make sure that we are sufficient in terms of sugar production. So it is an opportunity which is available for the investors who will be showing interest in this area. The investment center will help them to obtain land that will be used for investment purposes. Assembling of agricultural machines and equipment is also another area that the investors may take interest, because Tanzania depends, most of our people depends on the agricultural sector, and we really need these facilities to be used by our people and some companies investing in this sector. Edible oil, this is another sector that we are spending a lot of money to import edible oil, mainly palm oil from outside. On the other side, we have oil seeds from sesame seeds, from groundnuts, which are grown in Tanzania. So it's an opportunity for the investors who will be showing interest to come and establish large-scale commercial farming, as well as setting up processing facilities for edible oil. Avocado is a very growing sector recently, and there is a very big demand from outside. And from our side, we have land which is available for the investors who will be interested to come and grow avocado for local and export market. Cotton and textile is another area. We're exporting a lot of cotton in its raw form. So we would like to invite potential investors who will be able to come and invest into value addition in the cotton value chain, from cotton up to manufacturing of textile. Livestock and leather, this is another area. We have a very big stock of livestock in Tanzania, but still processing facilities are very minimal. So it's an area that we are looking for potential investors, whether they're interested to establish abattoirs or meat processing facilities or leather processing or milk processing. It's an area that we are still looking for potential investors. Fishing and aquaculture, this is also another area that we are looking for potential investors, whether from the sea fishing or from the lake fishing. We encourage them to come and establish such projects. Or whether in aquaculture, they are also allowed to come and establish investment in that area. Mining is also another area. We are looking for potential investors who will be able to come and extract minerals, but also to add value to the minerals that we produce. Because currently, minerals that are being mined, they're exported. Most of them are exported in its raw form. So it's time now for the investors who are ready to add value to the minerals available in Tanzania to come and establish value addition facilities. So in terms of mineral potentials, of course, Tanzania is very rich. We have different types of minerals ranging from diamond, gold, niobium, graphite. Recently, we have discovered helium, tin. There is a lot of minerals. So it's up to an investor to choose what type of minerals that they would like to come and extract and add value for the export market. Another area is in the petroleum and the gas. Of course, we have recently discovered gas and we have started using gas. We are generating power out of gas, but still there are some opportunities that goes hand in hand with the gas which we have discovered, such as establishment of fertilizer projects, but also projects like CNG or LPG. So it is a sector which is open to the investors who are interested to come and establish business in Tanzania. There are also some areas which exploration of oil is ongoing, and for the investors who will be showing interest, then we welcome them to come and participate in the exploration of oil and the gas. Tourism is another area. Of course, we have a lot of potentials in terms of tourism. And recently, we have seen an increase in the number of tourists coming to Tanzania. So we'd like to have we would like to have investors who will be able to construct tourist hotels, whether they are 5-star, 4-star, or tourist lodge, or conference facilities, so that these facilities should go hand in hand with an increase in the number of tourists who are visiting in Tanzania. So this is an area which is open to investors who are coming to Tanzania to explore various investment opportunities. And here, this is just examples of some of the investors who are already operating in Tanzania. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, John Munali, and I really take notes of the reduction of the investment license to 14 days, even planning to reduce them further to 7 days. That's very good to us, and we take note as a private sector. That's important to us. And also the 75% relief on capital goods. That's quite an encouragement, as well as the corporate tax reduction of 20% in the first 5 years. That waiver is well appreciated. So we thank you so much, John Munali, for that, and I hope the participants have taken note, and if you have questions, please note them, and we shall raise them during the Q&A session. Without going take much time, we'll now welcome the representative of Salum Kenasul, the CEO of Zanzibar Investment Promotion Agency, and we recognize that though Zanzibar is part of Tanzania, but as our member, as our very ardent member, we think it is important that they have an opportunity also to present the opportunities in Zanzibar. Please, the representative, Madam Nasiria, you can take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to share my presentation. Maybe I need assistance.
What could be the you could probably share the presentation to.
Yeah, because I clicked share, but it's different from Zoom. So do I share your entire screen or where do I share?
Sylvester, guidance, please.
Yes, Nasria, just click share entire screen.
I did.
Okay, now just shift to your presentation. We can see your screen.
You can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me open the presentation. Right.
Okay. Yes, proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Nasria. I'm Director of Investment Promotion and Services. It's Zanzibar Investment Promotion Authority. So on behalf of Mr. Salum Nasor, who is the Executive Director of ZIPA, my presentation, I will do this presentation on his behalf. Generally, I talk about an overview of Zanzibar opportunity. I'll go specifically at Micheweni Free Economic Zone. Then I'll talk about general investment opportunities, and finally, I conclude my presentation with some few proposal. Anyway, I won't talk much about business environment in Zanzibar because more or less, Zanzibar being a part of United Republic of Tanzania, some of the key issues has been discussed or presented by Mr. Mnali. So in that case, let me just introduce Zanzibar to you. I believe we are an East African country, but there are some issues you need to know about Zanzibar. Zanzibar is made up of two main islands. Most of the people know Zanzibar is one island, but it is two main islands, Unguja and Pemba, and we have about 52 islets. So we cover an area of 205,2543 square kilometers. It is a part of the United Republic of Tanzania. But Zanzibar has its own government, complete with its president, cabinet, and legislation. So most of our some of our laws pass through House of Representatives and not United Republic of Tanzania, and mainly is responsible for issues that are non-union matters. So investment in a way is non-union matter, but when it comes to fiscal issue, is United Republic of Tanzania matter. So there are some issues for East African business people need to know about it. Economically, it has been explained by Matthew. This is the current status. Last year, our GDP growth rate was 7%. Per capita income comes to 1,114 from 9,030 year before that. We reduced our inflation rate from 5.7 to 3.9. And population, according to our census done in 2012, it was 1.3, but our growth rate in terms of population is 2.8. So it is expected that now, or in 2019, we were about 1.6 million. So we all are aware about COVID and what happened. And people know that Zanzibar has attracted a lot of number, or quite a big number of projects in tourism industry. And we are well known in tourism sector. And one among the sector that negatively affected by COVID was tourism. So the government need to improve the situation. And to that note, they thought they should, as I said earlier, Zanzibar is Unguja and Pemba, and most of our investment are in Unguja Island. So strategically, the government has declared that now Pemba can be treated as a strategic investment area. For instead of, currently we have laws that provide incentives for strategic investors, but you have conditions more or less like Tanzania Investment Center representative have presented. But for Pemba Island, whoever interested to invest in Pemba now, even if the investment is like $5 million US, you'll be treated as strategic investor. So this is an advantage of opportunity that business people should know. So to that note, the government declared a free economic zone. It was declared a bit earlier, but we prepare a plan, master plan for Micheweni, and I would like to share with you the opportunity of investment opportunity in Micheweni free economic zone. I believe most of you don't know Pemba very well. So like I said, this is Tanzania. We are at Zanzibar, and Zanzibar made up of two islands, Unguja and Pemba, and this is Pemba Island. So Micheweni economic zone, it is in this area. We have two plots, A and B. If you look at it, we have site A and site B. Opportunities available at Micheweni free economic zones will be, I'll present them later, but I want to show accessibility of the area. So we have 261 hectares at Block A, and it is near Kiuyu. And we have 547 hectares at Block B, and it is near Maziwa ya Ng'ombe. All are northern part of Pemba. So it is accessible. It is about 75 kilometers from Mkoani. Mkoani is area where we have the main port for Pemba, but also Micheweni is connected to major truck road, which link to North Pemba and South Pemba region. And it is about 20 kilometers from airport, Pemba Airport. Power supply, of course, Pemba is served with national grid connected offshore from Tanga power station to Asia, and a capacity of 200 megawatts. Currently, maximum capacity for Pemba is 20 megawatts, but also they have standby generator of 5 megawatts. Water sources, they are available. We don't have rivers, big rivers in Pemba, but most of water, fresh water, and of course water, we depend on groundwater. This is the plan, our master plan for Micheweni. where we are going to have residential areas, we are going to have industrial area, office building, and everything. And we are starting to promote Block B area. And this is the planning framework for Micheweni Free Economic Zone. So we are going to have administrative blocks, shopping areas, parking, all these facilities will be available. For the time being, the area is, let me say, virgin land. The plan is ready to attract any investors. What are the projects? We are going to have industrial area. This yellow is industrial area. The central part is facility, business facility area, including administrative block. Then we are going to have a residential area, including real estate business and others at this area. But also, as you can see, Micheweni, it's not just Micheweni, but it's at the ocean. And we have prime area at this part where hotels and other tourism activity is planned to take place in this area. This is the plan we are looking for. So we are going to have residential, industrial, and we are going to have hotel industry. But Micheweni, what we can say is it has a lot of potential. Pemba Island has a lot of potential where nobody has touched. We call them unlocking potential. First of all, we have fishing industry, current activity are undertaking, but it's not with limited of commercialization. So we believe with free economic zone, the opportunity to attract investment into fish processing, which in turn would catalyze professionalization of sector to boost income on fishing. In other areas, seaweed farming, where most of our people in Pemba are actually doing this, but not in commercial basis, in Pemba, and we do some of them in Unguja. Currently, Zanzibar export about 15 tons of seaweed. So now what we are looking for is processing the seaweed instead of selling them raw outside the country. Then another area is pearl or oyster farming. So given the seawater quality in Pemba Island, it is possible to start the oyster farming industry, which will lead to production of saltwater pearls. Another area we are known, Pemba Island is known in terms of cloves, spices. So the only thing, or only part that needed is to transform clove, instead of selling them raw, to add value on it, so that we can export products made from cloves. Another area is vanilla farming and processing, whereby also we need to grow vanilla, but also to process for exports. Another area is vegetable farming, where we know that vegetables are currently being grown in mainly of Pemba Island, and we sold them in local market, but due to climate condition of Pemba and the soil, very fertile soil in Pemba, we believe horticulture, it can be one of the area that investor can engage in. Dairy farming is another area where investors who come from any part of the world, they can process, they can build facility for processing meat and milk. In addition to that, we are looking for byproduct of dairy product, which include cheese, butter, yogurt, but also we are promoting to have a main slaughterhouse, modern slaughterhouse in this area. So all these business or the area has been allocated for these services from the master plan. Also, we have at Pemba area, we have area which is really, they have a lot of limestone, sand, and quarry stones. We believe from that area we can have a construction materials, so the industry that can make bricks and other products for construction, we are welcome them. Then cottage industry. This is most of our people, we believe they will benefit from that. Handicraft, woodcraft, soap making. So most of our local people benefit of using this cottage industry. So in general, what we are looking for, investors who can build the facility also to enable these people to get opportunity to do their business in the free economic zones. In summary, we have plan for short-term plan for 5 years, medium-term plan, and long-term plan, but not necessarily which one should come first. We have 5 years plan where most of the business is depend on local community, but medium-term plan, maybe we can invite others from abroad, but long-term plan, definitely we need support from international businesses, or at least those bigger investment. Apart from free economic zone, Zanzibar offer different opportunity in areas, in vast area, including agriculture and fisheries. We are known in tourism industry, social services, infrastructure development, real estate, which is now in Zanzibar, we know most of our investment is, we approve them in real estate business, but also transportation, communication service, and energy. These are the area where we do promote. And recently we have the policy of oil and gas has been passed. We believe just a few months to come, we are going to promote oil and gas or exploration in Zanzibar. That is part of promotion, but also as an island, there are some areas that we believe investors and business people can visit and see. This is our tourism attraction. So if you go to Pemba, you may find those areas like Ngezi Forest to visit. We have nice coral reef. We do have this reserve forest, but also those who love to play with dolphin. There are some excursions that you can use while you visit Zanzibar. Not to forget unspoiled beach available in our island. Thank you very much for that presentation. So this is our contact in case of anything. We are here to answer whatever question may arise. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Syria. That's very important. I think you've introduced us to Zanzibar. I think not so many of us may have visited that area, but I think you touched so much on the real estate and especially enjoying the opportunities or incentives under the special economic zone arrangement. And I remember when you were beginning your presentation that when you come to invest that particular amount, you will be treated as a Zanzibari. So I think that means East Africans will be treated as Zanzibaris upon arrival as investors. So that is very important, and I wish everyone to tour the dolphin area in your festive season and vacation. Thank you so much. We have taken note of the presentation, and please kindly share the presentation so that we can share with our participants. And that is very important so that they can know the incentives and opportunities in Zanzibar. Thank you so much, Nasiria, and we appreciate it. So we can have a presentation from Rwanda, from Mr. Zephanie Nyonguru, the Deputy CEO of Rwanda Development Board, representing Madam Claire Kamanzi and representing RDB. Please take the floor and beam up your presentation, sir. Thank you. Zephanie, if you can just unmute your microphone, please. Because the presentation is already up.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes. Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as you said, I'm Zephanie Nyuguru. I'm the Deputy CEO of the Rwanda Development Board. Rwanda Development Board is a government institution which is mandated to fast-track the development of the private sector and make sure that the private sector increases their contribution into the development of Rwanda. So I will take 20 minutes in total to take you through the presentation that I have, which has got an overview as far as our economy or our country is concerned. And then I will go into some specific opportunities. I mainly focus on opportunities in agriculture, opportunities in ICT, and opportunities in infrastructure. Those are the three areas that I'll be focusing on. And I'll touch a little bit on mining. But in general, as you mentioned, we're going to share the presentation, and in the case of other specific follow-up questions, we'll be ready to provide answers and facilitate the investors. So Rwanda is definitely part of East Africa community. We are a country which has got only 26,000 square kilometers in terms of the total area. Our population is around 11 million. And if you look into the structure of our economy has been, growing very fast over the last 10, 15 years. If you look at, if you make an average from 2017 up to 2019, the economy was growing on average by 7.5% every year. And some of the years actually we had a double-digit growth rate. Prior to Corona, to the pandemic, the economy had grown by 9.4 per annum, including some specific quarters where we had a double-digit growth. So it's an economy that has been growing very fast. I will go into some of the details, and if you look into also other indicators beyond GDP in terms of human development indicators, we are among the countries that are, recorded the highest level of improvement. Our population definitely is, dominated by youth, same as the rest of the countries which have got a dynamic, same as the ones that we have. And it's also a country that is very safe. Investors have really been, enjoying the high level of security, safety. You can walk in the night anytime. Some of the international organizations ranked Rwanda as 5th in terms of the safest country in the world where you can, work in the night. If you also look into our macro numbers in terms of the debt to GDP ratio, we have the lowest in the region. With the pandemic and other trade aspects in play, definitely there have been some, fluctuation into the currency, but at least the currency has been stable. Now, when it comes also to facilitating investments, we've been really undertaking quite a number of reforms that helped us to easily and quickly facilitate investors. When you look into some of the benchmarks, like the one, for example, that is done by the World Bank, we are ranked the 2nd in terms of the ease of doing business, 2nd in Africa, that's after Mauritius. And then for transparency, we ranked top. We have really several also women in leadership, more than 50% of be the cabinet, be the parliament, more than 50% are women, including even the parliament where you have now it's standard actually at 60. So we have, as we talk about development, really we've really seen huge contribution of women in terms of our development as a nation. And of course, we capitalize on the EAC as we attract investments and making sure that we tap into the opportunities that are in other countries which are member of the EAC. And we have also been working on aspects related to MICE, meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions to complement the rest of the tourism activities. And we have also been heavily investing in IT to make sure that the IT, information technology, provide a leverage to the rest of the sectors in terms of the overall economic development. So if you look into the network readiness over the last 10, 15 years, we have invested in aspects like fiber optic to make sure that the entire country is connected to the fiber. As we speak, more than 95% of the country is connected to the 4G. And then the fiber optic that I was talking about has got the size of, in terms of the length, it's 7,000 kilometer. So if you look into the total area of 26,000, as I mentioned before, so this is really 95% in terms of the coverage of the 4G. Now, when we talk about doing a business, as I mentioned, if you look into different scores, opening a company, closing a company, paying taxes, being able to be facilitated to trade with the rest of our neighbors or even beyond. If you put all of these into play and you look into some of the metrics of the World Bank, we are ranked second in terms of the ease of doing business in Africa, and then number 38 in the world in terms of the ease of doing business. So we've been undertaking quite a number of reforms, including making sure that if someone wants to register a company, if you want to open a business in Rwanda, you can register it anywhere in the world. If you are in Kenya, if you're in Tanzania, if you're in Burundi, if you're in Uganda, you can go online, you open a company. It's done online. And then within 8 hours, within 8 hours, you have your certificate of incorporation, and then you can start your business in Rwanda. And then we have also been working on several reforms to make sure that investors can really trade across the border easily. We have been also making sure that we improve on aspects and strengthen of registering property, be on the aspects of land, like we have a national land registry. It's just getting your number, your UPI of the land, and then you're gonna know if the land is mortgaged, or if it's for agriculture, or if it's for, I don't know, recreational activities. So all of these registries have really helped us in terms of providing quick facilitations to the investors. And then also aspects to do with the enforcement of contracts, because these are really some of the things that investors look at when they want to invest in a specific country. So those reforms are really geared at not only making sure that we have a friendly regulatory environment, but also making sure that where they need to be, we provide some specific or targeted incentives to investors. Currently, our corporate income tax is 30%, but when investors are involved in some export activities, when they can export up to 50% of their production, we even lower this 30%, we make it 15%. And then if you also bring your headquarter in Rwanda, and you bring a headquarter in Rwanda, you serve the region, from Rwanda, we also give you 0% in terms of corporate income tax. And then we give an opportunity to the investors who are starting their business also to do some quick depreciation of their PPE up to 50%, which we believe actually helps them in terms of getting some cash flows. And also they have also some capital gains which they retain, we don't tax these ones as well. And when they are starting, if they're importing machinery or other inputs, but which are produced in the EAC, they import these duty-free, they don't pay import duties. So we have really been making sure that we provide all of those facilitation, including even when it comes to registering the investments in 6 hours, as I mentioned. This is something that you do for free. You don't pay any amounts. You log in, you respond, you search for the name, it's electronic. If a name hasn't been taken, you get it. If it has been taken, the system will ask you to propose another name. And then after 6 hours, you get your certificate of operation. You don't have to pay anything. We also have a one-stop center, so that if you even need other services, let's assume you want to have work permits for you, for your staff, we have a delegated officer from the Office of Immigration. So you really receive these services under one roof. At the RDB, we have one-stop center serving investors. And when it comes also to facilitating foreign investors, if you are Rwandan, if you are from East Africa, if you are from anywhere in the world, you can own a company. we don't have any restrictions in terms of ownership. You can come, open a company, have 100% of the shares, even if you might be a foreign. We don't really impose any local ownership or any partnership with a local. If you want, you can do solo, you can invest at your own. If you want, you can partner with a local, that's fine. Whatever you prefer, we don't have any sort of restriction. The same case applies to repatriation of capital. If you've made some gains, if you've made some profits which you'd want to pay to yourself or repatriate in terms of dividends or anything, we don't have restrictions on that one as well. No amounts, provided you clear everything else that you need to clear by this. I mean, are we talking about some applicable taxes? We don't have any restriction in terms of repatriation of capital. Now, as I go into the specific opportunities, we have been definitely investing in aspects like ICT, aspects like skills, to make sure that business community is highly supported, and also they have everything that they need to be able to invest in Rwanda, grow their business, expand, reinvest. We especially when it comes now to the human capital, every year we have more than 50,000 graduates, coming out of our universities. And as we make sure that investors do get access to highly skilled human capital, we have been attracting global universities to come and set up in Rwanda. So we have, several local universities which have also been improving significantly, attracting even foreign students, but we have also been attracting foreign investors in education. For example, the Carnegie Mellon University from Pittsburgh in the United States, they opened up a campus in Rwanda. So we have a Carnegie Mellon University Africa campus, which is established in Kigali. They provide master's level courses in information technology, engineering, all of these blends from Africa, West, North, South, and other parts of the world. And once they graduate, they take jobs at the local market, or they start their own farms, or they go back to their own countries. We also have Africa Leadership University, which was initiated by Fred Swanika, which I believe some of the investors know. It has also been providing high-level, education programs with regard to leadership, with regard to business. We also have the branch of Africa Institute of Mathematical Sciences. So this has been also established in Rwanda. So these are really the institutions that are contributing in terms of making sure that our investors tap into the skills that they need to be able to grow their companies. And if you look into the system, we have majority of the people who are bilingual. We have some who can speak English, we have others who speak English and French, we have others who are bilingual, which I believe really help in terms of serving investors. And as we speak, more than 70% of our population is under years of old. So if you look into what the investors would tap into once they invest in Rwanda, you're basically talking about the market of East Africa. You produce in Rwanda, you export to the region. You can also tap into the opportunities under COMESA. You can also tap into other opportunities at the continental level, like the ACTA that's going to be operationalized soon. Opportunities like AGOA. So these are other opportunities that you definitely tap into when you invest.
Ungenipa majina yao alafu mimi nikimpigia huyo mtu nimwambie.
Please, someone mute your microphone. Please, as I said, kindly mute your microphone if you're not presenting or answering a question. Thank you.
Over the last 20 years and so, we've been seeing some.
Bado unatafuta mambo ya vibali tena jamani. Haya, kazi.
Vibali unahusikana na nini? Kwa sababu
na mtu yuko anafahamu.
Juvenal Daniel is switch.
Daniel, please mute your microphone. Juvenal Daniel Lema, please mute your microphone. Kindly mute your microphone. So Juvenal Daniel Lema, you're really obstructing the meeting. Thank you. Mr. Zephany, this is your place, you can go on. Mr. Zephany, you're muted. Please, you can unmute your microphone. All right.
Yes, so among I was talking about some of the big investments that came to Rwanda. So they include Radisson, Carnegie Mellon. Over the last 10 years, we have also seen several regional companies expanding or coming to Rwanda, including KCB, Equity. In addition to starting the operations, they also cross-listed on our stock exchange. So these are some of the companies that have been coming, either serving the local market, regional market, but also exporting, overseas. So we have opportunities in different sectors: infrastructure, energy, mining, manufacturing, and so on and forth. So I will just quickly touch base on a few of them. If I would start with innovation and technology, as I mentioned, innovation and technology is really one of the areas where the government of Rwanda has been heavily supporting in terms of making sure that we have infrastructure that will support this sector to grow, because we believe that it cross-cuts across several other sectors and it's really an enabler. So we have really rolled out a big fiber optic, a huge fiber optic across the entire country. We have 95% of 4G internet coverage across the entire country. And then we also have all the tech and ICT focused high education or high learning institutions that I alluded to. Now, if you go into the opportunities, we are currently developing Kigali Innovation City, which is really a specific area that we dedicated for, education of institutions of high learnings, which will be coming to provide those cutting-edge education programs, including CMU. CMU that I mentioned now is based in the Kigali Innovation City. The Africa Leadership University is based there as well. We are also working to attract fintech companies, companies that will be serving the rest of companies in Rwanda and in Africa to be based in this innovation city, so that they can keep providing growth or catalyzing growth in the other sectors. And in tandem, as we do this, we also started an innovation fund, which will be supporting entrepreneurs that will be coming up with projects, be in biotechnology, be in agriculture technology, fintech, all of these good ideas that will be supporting the growth of our economy. So this is really one of the opportunities that investors can come tap into, start their business there, serve Rwanda, and also serve the region. We also have opportunities in agriculture. Agriculture is a major contributor into our GDP. If you look into the structure of our gross domestic products, we have around 49% coming from services. Those are like financial services, tourism, and then you have around 24% coming from agriculture, and they have 18% coming from industry or manufacturing activity. So talking of agriculture, some of the flagship projects that we have, we are now asking investors to come and take advantage of the investments that we are making, is the Gawiro Agro Park. It's we're starting with a phase of around 5,600 hectares, but you're gonna expand up to 15,000. But what we are doing is really putting infrastructure there, irrigation infrastructure, to make sure that those who would come and cultivate high yield products, those who would come and do agro processing, they find all of those infrastructure there. They start working immediately without spending sometimes in terms of making some investments in agriculture. They definitely start, come do agriculture, do livestock activities, and then start serving the local market. We also have another one called Gapo Beef, where we want to mainly serve the local market, the regional market, as far as meat products are concerned. If you look into some of the meats that are consumed from either our hotels or other major consumers, we have a huge percentage that is imported. So we want to make sure that we capture that domestic market and also do some exports. And then another one is the Kigali wholesale markets, which you also provide more marketing opportunities or retail of fruits and vegetables. The other aspect that I wanted to mention is also related to tourism and real estates. We've been developing our tourism sector in terms of not only having the visitors who are coming in to see the likes of gorillas or to see the big five, but also even those who are coming for meetings, being able to host several meetings, including like World Economic Forum, AU, Heads of State Summit. So being making all of these investments to be able to host all of these big conferences, because we believe that once they are here, they also catalyze the rest of the sectors, including agriculture, including services, transport, and also they have an impact, a positive impact as far as the foreign exchange effects is concerned. So in terms of the opportunities in tourism as well, we have several resource areas where people can develop, golf resorts, and also we have some hot springs. We also have some high-end hotels that are being developed, where some investors are coming to attract those high-end tourists who are ready to stay, spend more, and also utilize some of the services that are on the ground. As I move towards the end, when it comes to the infrastructure, I alluded to the ICT, but also when it comes to the energy, we have been growing our national grid. If you look into where we were 10 years ago, we are talking about the total generation of 72 megawatts at national level. As we speak, we are at 218 megawatts, and we are targeting around 500 over the next course of 4 years. So we have really several investment opportunities where investors can invest in the generation. We sign power purchasing agreement with investors where they come, they generate, then they sell to the national grid. So that's really one of the opportunities. And still in the energy, we also, that's on the side of the supply. When you go on the side of the demand, we have also been encouraging investors to come and invest in areas like, electric vehicles, electric motorbikes, because these are the kind of investments which are not only environment friendly, but also which even provide a kind of demand for all of these generation of electricity that we are currently making. So again, we also have affordable housing, a project that we are promoting. We have even established a fund which provide some sort of subsidy, low or cheap financing to the investors, so that if investors come in, bring some equity or some debt, they also chip into this particular fund to be able to construct some affordable houses. And also we have a Rwanda Energy Fund, Renewable Energy Fund, which provide also some grant and cheap financing, less than 20% in terms of interest. And the idea is to make sure that you provide off-grid power solutions, not only for the people who are in the rural areas, but also in general to make sure that we keep on having energy that are green and also which are environment friendly. So these are really other opportunities that investors can tap into. And these are really the opportunities that we can, again, in addition to tapping into them, we provide those kind of facilitation to make sure that they access some financing. The last bit is mining. For mining, we have opportunities in the tantalum and tungsten, in some precious stones as well, like gemstones. So we've been exporting really a big chunk of tantalum. We've been also investing in aspects related to value addition. So the opportunities that are there really comes to at the level of value addition. We have some exploration and exploitation going on, but we are really asking investors or encouraging investors to come and invest in aspects like gemstone cutting, gold refinery. So it's really capitalizing on what you have as a country, but also even on whatever that will be re-exported from neighboring countries. So in a nutshell, these are some of the opportunities. As I mentioned, at the Rwanda Development Board, what we do, we facilitate all of these investment activities, from making sure that an investor register to making sure that investors do operationalization, and also making sure that they invest. So all of these aftercare services. On the other side also, we act as the government chief negotiator. So if you want to come and partner with the government, let's say you get a concession for power or for airport, all of these negotiations are led by the RDB, where we make sure that you enter into that particular partnership with the government. And then lastly, we also do the marketing of Rwanda in terms of promoting tourists, in terms of making sure that you also do conservation of national parks. Thank you very much. And in case of questions and anything else, I will be ready to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, DCEO. Thank you so much, ably represented RDB and the opportunities that are available in Rwanda. And I think maybe I may, Mr. John Munali may need to pick your details when you talk, because for them it's 11 and I think thinking to reduce to 7 days, while Rwanda is just 8 hours to establish a company. But maybe you may wish to confirm whether this also applies to an investment license, so that it takes 8 hours to have an investment license in Rwanda. Maybe that can come later in your other submissions. Thank you so much. I hope participants have taken note, and that is very important. There's a lot of initiatives in Rwanda. If someone may mute their microphone, we are about to enter the Q&A session after Uganda, but please, Mr. Martin, if you can take the floor and do the presentation on the opportunities in Uganda, so that we make it fast. We are a bit late by a few minutes, but if Mr. Martin can make it fast, we can always redeem time and have a few minutes for the Q&A session. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Please take the floor and do the presentation.
Okay, good afternoon to you all. My name is Martin Mhanji. I was already introduced, and I'm representing the Director General, the Acting Director General of Uganda Investment Authority, and with me is Madam Shira Mugenzi and Mr. Peter Muramira, who are listening in. Okay, let me go quickly to the presentation. I believe you can see the presentation. Is that all right? You say okay, and then I move on.
Move on.
Okay.
Yeah, we can. Presentation.
Presentation outline, it has the components are why Uganda, then we'll move to the investment climate pre-COVID, then I will also walk through the pandemic impact on investment or the effects of the COVID, then the comparative advantage, the opportunities that we have, the legal framework, and setting up business in Uganda. Why Uganda? Uganda is endowed with enough resources in terms of minerals and also good arable agriculture. We have also a steady economic growth, which we have enjoyed for the last 30 years, averaging about 6.5% in GDP growth. We are focusing a lot in the cost reduction for our investors, and we shall see it later when I explain the one-stop center. Security has been stable for our investors, and we have an open environment for investment, a liberalized economy, where investors are allowed to take out their profits from the investment after paying the relevant taxes. And of course, we are also linked to a growing market within the region. The statistics on the FDI outlook, this is just a quick statistic, shows Uganda was doing very well pre-2019 with the position of second position in East Africa. The status pre-COVID, as at December 2019, we had licensed projects in the total or in aggregate, so 7,486 projects since 1991, when Uganda Investment Authority was established, and with planned investment value of over 25 billion. And in the period 2018-2019, we had 1.3 billion worth of the planned investment projects or licensed projects in that year, mainly largely from the foreign direct investments. So to give a small snapshot for the period 2014 to 2019, we had a 16% increase in number of licensed projects, 54% increase in planned investment value of the projects, and our employment during that period had increased by 151%. Effects of COVID. As at the end of 2019-2020, we also registered a significant disruption in the licensed investment projects with an 8% drop in the number of licensed projects. And why did we have this significant drop is because most of our foreign investments come from China, and there was a significant disruption in China, India, and the EU. And therefore, most of the projects that were coming in, or what I would call pipeline projects, we are delayed because of the closures of movement and the disruptions in supply and demand chains. That also was realized in our domestic level. At the domestic level, our investments also decreased, and statistics show us that that the projects declined from 10.4 billion. This is cumulative figure as at 2009. As from 2009 to 2019, we had about 10.4 billion worth of domestic investments, cumulative figure, but which also reduced. At the end of 2019, we realized a domestic reduction of investments, falling from that figure to about 310 million. We also experienced a reduction in diaspora investments, remittances, and as at the end of 2019, investments dropped from 1.369 billion to 955.6 million, and that was, and it is expected to drop by 20% by the end of 2020-2021 financial year. So, in other words, COVID has also affected our investment landscape. In terms of competitive advantage, we see Uganda, despite the challenges that we faced by COVID, we see Uganda still doing very well in terms of exports, and these are majorly the agricultural exports to the sub-Saharan Africa. So Uganda is doing very well, and this is an export from World Bank, World Development Indicators. And the main products that we are doing, which explains that performance, is mainly coffee, tea, cocoa, spices, gold, cereals, vegetables, fish, and razor products, oil seeds. These are the main exports that Uganda is doing to the sub-Saharan Africa. In terms of cost drivers, which of course largely influences investment and trade, Uganda is doing well in terms of electricity costs. Why? Because we have now adequate capacity. We have put on grid a lot of power. So investors are getting power, which is a major cost in the investment cycle. Then we also have labor. Our labor is competitive, and in terms of cost, it is affordable. And then our property, our commercial property and warehouses range from $4 to $6 per square meter, which is competitive. Where we have a bit of a challenge is on the transport side from our main gateway to the border, but this is being mitigated by the one-stop border points and regional plans that are underway. What are the opportunities? The opportunities we have are many in the agriculture sector, and they are majorly in the commercial side of agriculture, but also we are attracting investors into the value addition, and we have considered a variety of incentives, which I will also explain later. But the major areas is coffee, at commercial production, banana, cotton. Those are major crops. which we are promoting at the side of farming at a commercial level, but we are also promoting value addition in these areas through our industrial parks. Uganda is also experiencing urbanization, growing at 5.4% per year, and largely this is this growth is largely in the middle class, which can afford to purchase processed consumer goods. The upcoming of commercialization of oil is also has provided also a big advantage to Uganda, especially now that we have signed off the final investment decision in terms of agreements. We see we are realizing most of the investors now moving in to take advantage of the commercialization of oil, especially in other sectors, more especially in the agriculture sector. The region also has a high irrigation potential, and we're also attracting investors in that area. In terms of mining, we have just finished our National Development Plan 3, and the National Development Plan has highlighted 6 key minerals for exploitation, iron ore. We already have a feasibility study done that shows that we have significant deposits of iron ore in the western part of Uganda, specifically in Kampala, and we are attracting investors in that area. We also have limestone, copper, cobalt, phosphates, uranium, and other stones. And these have been identified as key priority areas, and then we are attracting investors in those areas. And those that are interested can access data, and some studies have been done, as I explained, like iron ore. There are also opportunities in the construction industry, and this is the statistics is largely reflected in the way the building materials are being consumed. So that is also a potential area for the investors who are interested in supplying construction materials, both for roads and then for real estate. Tourism is also our major priority sector. In the last 5 years, we realized 1.6 billion United States dollars. Though COVID, of course, has disrupted this area, but with the opening up of international travel, we are seeing the tourists coming in. The potential opportunities that are in this area is establishment of luxury accommodation, lodges, and also we have connecting roads. We still have infrastructure challenge, but that also is an opportunity for our investors. Establishment of cable cars in the Rezo region. We have our mountains of the moon. We have a lot of tourist features in the western part of Uganda, and even in other parts of Uganda with a lot of biodiversity. We have animals, we have lakes, we have snow-capped mountains. All these are opportunities that are available under tourism. And infrastructure, we have like Uganda, like any other state in the East African region, there is a growing need for development of infrastructure, and on the roads, railway, and water. So the opportunities that are available in water vessels are now required. They would make it much more cost effective if they are available. So those are the opportunities that we have. Bridges, we are also thinking of ICT parks, and more especially focusing them in the industrial parks. Which we have greatly focused on. For example, I would like to inform the listeners that the government of Uganda has identified 27 potential areas for industrial parks. So we are attracting investors both at an international level and at a local level. And when I mean a local level, is not only Uganda, since we are now the citizens are regarded as those that reside in the member states. So we have those opportunities in those 27 potential identified parks. And we also have opportunities in the upcountry airports, and we have also opportunities that are available under free or special economic zones. Uganda Investment Authority and the country at large, post-COVID, despite all the challenges, we are focusing very, very greatly on studies. Why are we doing studies? We are doing studies for two reasons. Number one, to de-risk the projects for our investors, both at international level and at domestic level. So we have made a lot of studies, and this slide explains the studies that we have done at small and medium enterprise level, but we have also done studies regionally and also at a sector level. And these studies are for the purpose of de-risking projects, but at the same time reducing cost for investors. I think that's a very big mileage we are doing for our investors, and these studies are available at www.ugandainvest.go.uk. We have uploaded all these studies. The investors can access them, and that eases the financing mechanism for those opportunities. In addition to solving the challenges post-COVID, we are also focusing a lot on using online services. With COVID, we realized that the best framework or platform for engaging our investors, promoting, serving our investors, providing aftercare services, facilitating our investors is to move online. So a lot of our facilitation and promotion activities now have shifted to the online services. That's why I gave you the web portal, which is very versatile. We are able to interact with the investors, and we are seeing a great response. And along the way, I will show you the benefits of moving to online. In terms of incentives, there are many incentives that are available in our tax code, and these are clearly outlined in our investment code. But the key incentives in our tax code are 10-year income tax holiday for exporters of finished consumer and capital goods. 10-year tax holiday. Then there is also 10-year tax holiday for developers of industrial parks and operators in the industrial parks. All these incentives are clearly embedded in our tax code and explained adequately in our investment code. And the tax code can be accessed online through the Uganda Revenue Authority web portal, which is www.ura.go.ug. It details all the incentives that are available, but majorly they are segmented into different sectors, and that makes it very simple and accessible to our investors. We also have enacted as a legal framework to support the investment in the country. We have the investment code, which is newly, we have just repealed the old investment code with a new investment code of 2019. And this was done for purposes of introducing the best practices into our investment climate. We also have had recently new laws on data protection and privacy. There is also a new act on the National Environmental Management Authority. There is also Security Interests in Immovable Property Act. We have Civil Aviation Authority Amendment Act, and then we also have the other acts. But our major focus or our major interest in this meeting, since it is trade and investment, is to draw your attention on the Investment Code Act of 2019, which transformed Uganda Investment Authority into a one-stop center. And what do I mean by one-stop center? This is where we now reside, all the government agencies that are facilitating, providing facilities in terms of licenses, in terms of regulations of some kind. For example, there are many entities that have been put up on the one-stop center, and these entities we have signed with them service level agreements to ensure that we track the implementation of investments. And to give you a quick snapshot of what is available at the one-stop center, we have Uganda Registration Bureau, that is for purposes of registering, incorporating and registering a company. And in here, the SLA, service level agreement that we have with the URSB is that they register a company in a record of 4 hours. We also have, we are residing there as the Uganda Investment Authority, and our major role there, in addition to oversight role of other agencies, we also issue investment license, which we do through our web portal, www.ebiz.gg, that's down there. That is where we do the licensing of our investors. So an investor, wherever he is or she is, can just go on the web portal, eBiz, and be able to get the license within 48 hours. We also have land verification a service, which is done by the Lands Ministry. We have banking facilities to support the payments for the different licenses that we offer. We have the Free Zone Authority that largely regulates the free zone areas. We have utility companies, national water, which regulates the water. We also have, and we also have a standards agency that standards. So these are the services that we offer to the one-stop center, and it is both for foreign investors and domestic investors. And with the one-stop center, establishment of one-stop center, we have seen 2 major advantages that have occurred after the establishment of one-stop center. Our investors have registered an appreciation on the reduction of costs and also on a reduction of turnaround time. I think those are the 2 key benefits that we see emerging from our one-stop center. Thank you for listening, Asante Sana, and we are welcome to the question and answers. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Mohanji, very much for the information that you've shared with us, and the stop center is very important. I think has ended very well, that it has reduced cost and turnaround time, and that is a major threat to doing business. If you have to delay business, it of course translates through time. So the fact that Uganda has introduced that reform, it is very important, and I think the investors and potential investors on this call should take note of that. So I think, let me not go through much. Much has been said, but we are going to go into the session and answers, and I'll begin with the questions that are in the chats. I can see most of them have been answered, but I'll go to those that have not yet been answered, and I think the first one goes to Tanzania. So do you mind sharing a link of the procedures for application to register business, or even just enlist the requirements for the registration in both Tanzania and Zanzibar? I think very quickly, Mr. John Nali can, if you have them offhand or quite there, you can just help us to answer that question. That's one. Then Martin, please update us on the oil refinery and crude oil. That came from Mr. Evarist Hafgimana. Please update us on the oil refinery and the crude oil pipeline from Kampala to Mwanza through Mbarara. That's Mr. Martin can note that. And then someone, we see different levels of the ease of doing business across the EAC. Is there any initiatives by EABC to harmonize policies to address the situation, which will also cater for most of the NTVs? And someone from definitely EABC is going to answer this. I think the rest have been answered, but maybe we start with Mr. John Munali to respond to those. There's another question that is on addressed to Rwanda, Mr. Zephany. 6 hours of starting by John Munali still.
Can you repeat?
The question to you, Mr. John. The question say, do you mind sharing the list of the procedures for application?
I wanted to
register a business, or even enlist the requirements for registering a company in Tanzania and Zanzibar. So if you can just briefly respond to that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Kamanzi, I think there's a question that you said.
Company.
Can you repeat?
So the question says, could
Yes.
you please enlist the procedures or the requirements to register a company in Tanzania? Let's say if you're a Kenyan, a Rwandese, or a Burundian, a South Sudan wants to register a company in Tanzania. What would be the requirements?
Okay.
Yes, and
okay.
then
For company registration, it is a procedure which is managed by BRELA. BRELA stands for Business Registration and Licensing Agency. So for the investors who want to register companies, then they are advised to visit the website, and then they can register the company wherever they are. They don't need to come here physically. But if they want to apply for a certificate of incentives and be registered by the Tanzania Investment Center, then I can share that procedure, which is basically an investor will be required to submit a certificate of company registration. This is after obtaining from BRELA, and this is after he has already registered with the BRELA. Then an investor will be required to submit a business plan, a memorandum and articles of association of the project, then the evidence of land ownership, which could be a lease agreement or a title, then a body resolution, then a covering letter, which basically will explain is applying for a certificate of incentives. So that is the registration procedures and documents required or for those who want to register with the investment center. I don't know whether I'm clear on that.
Thank you so much. There's also a follow-up question. Thank you. You're very clear, and I think they have noted your response. Maybe people need to understand that there's a difference between registering for a trading company and an investment. So there should be clarity on that. But there's also a follow-up question on our social media platform. What does it need for one to open a company when he's not a local? Does he require a local shareholder in Tanzania? Mr. John.
Okay, you don't need to have a local shareholder in order to open a company in Tanzania. The company may be owned 100% by foreigners, so we have no restriction on that.
And that's for both trading, general trading and investment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. That's well noted. So another question that was addressed to Mr. Zeffani. It says 6 hours of starting a business in Rwanda. Does it cover obtaining all licenses, approvals, and permits? For example, business license and industry license, environmental clearance, work permit, residential permit, land, etc. Does it cover it all? What exactly is completed within 6 hours? So maybe Mr. Zeffani would answer that. And also a follow-up question to him, is 6 hours also, does it cover the investment license? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. These 6 hours are for certificate of incorporation. So it's really a license to be able to do business. You may be a local and you start immediately. You may be operating in a sector which doesn't require any other particular licensing. So that certificate of incorporation, you get it in 6 hours. So it really entails making sure that you choose the name of your business. Our system is linked with the one of the revenue officials. So when you also get that certificate in 6 hours, you also get your tax identification number. You also get a number from Rwanda Social Security Board so that you can also do contribution for your employees. That's number one. So depending with the sector that you're going to invest into, you may need additional requirements. For example, if you're going to start a financial institution, these are regulated by the central bank. So you have that certificate of incorporation, but you will need to undergo other licensing pertaining to the banking sector. But if it's a sector which doesn't require any other certification, then you start immediately. So that's really number one. Number two, when it comes to the business license, some of the investors will request for this certificate of incorporation and they start their business without necessarily requiring for investment license. The investment license help you to enjoy some of the incentives which are outlined in the investment code. So if you have this certificate of incorporation, you can also apply for certificate of investments. And for this one, it takes a day or two. What we require you to submit is a business plan. What we need to see is whether you are investing in activities that will contribute to some value addition. For example, if you want to do some general trading activities, you simply need certificate of incorporation. You don't need a certificate of a business a registration certificate. So business registration is a second level. That's for the ones who are going to venture into value addition related activities, and that one takes 1 day or two. Now, as I mentioned, there might be other dynamics. If, for example, you are foreign, you may need also, I don't know, to bring in your family, and you may need to get them some residence. For example, you may want to invest in a sector which requires, for example, a deep environmental impact assessment, which can take 10 or 15 days, depending with the dynamics pertaining to that sector. But all else equal, we're talking about 6 hours to get a certificate of incorporation, and between 1 and 2 days to get your investment certificates, which help you to enjoy incentives under the investment code. Thank you.
Thank you, DCEO. Then a question to Mr. Martin. I think it's about the pipeline. Martin, please update us on the oil refinery and the crude oil pipeline from Kampala to Mwanza through Mbarara. Maybe as Mr. Jean-Baptiste was asking for the update. Will you please update?
It's just the PF. Okay, thank you very much. In terms of the oil pipeline updates, environmental social impact assessment certificate for the project was awarded, and Tanzania and Uganda has both signed host government agreements. And in terms of front-end engineering design, that is also completed. And what we are waiting for, construction awaits final investment decision. That is in respect of the oil pipeline. Now, in terms of refinery, I would like to say that the project framework agreement is in place. I think those are the only updates I have for now. And of course, I would like also to give you comfort that also other studies are ongoing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I will now follow up with questions that have come through our social media platforms, and that's Twitter and Facebook. And the first question goes to Rwanda. And says, the EAC partner states have individual investment policies and incentives that are geared towards promotion of trade and investment in their respective countries. Do you think the EAC policy could be a game changer in having EAC as a single investment destination? That's to you, Mr. Zeffany. And number two, it is widely observed that the biggest investments in the region in almost every sector is seen to be coming from outside EAC region. Does this mean that incentives favor foreign investors than local? And what could be the underlying issues faced by the local, and local means EAC investors vis-a-vis the foreign investors? And how can this paradigm shift? Maybe taking like 5 minutes, and this one is going to, well, each panelist has like 1 to 2 questions. So you can just take a few minutes, 5 minutes each, and we end with this follow-up question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Godfrey, for Geoffrey for the question. Yeah, correct. If you look into some of the dynamics pertaining to the region, there are quite a number of aspects which are country specific. And as you rightly mentioned, countries have been taking some sort of individual investment promotion policies on crafting some incentives. But again, we have to really also commend all of the efforts at EAC level. which have really been able to help us to market opportunities in our countries as abroad. For example, if you look at aspects like if you're attracting an investor and you tell the investor, okay, you're going to be based in Kigali, in a part of Rwanda, you say you have access to the regional market. So when you talk about the potential consumers that an investor will be tapping into, you allude to the numbers from the entire region, from as a block. So there are really all of those benefits that are coming from us being a region. But of course, I think having definitely an investment policy which is regional could definitely be a game changer, could definitely help in terms of attracting more investments. If I can base, for example, I can take the same case with tourism. You know, some of the regional countries adopted the single tourism visa, where, for example, if you have that visa, you can move from Kenya, you come to Rwanda, you go to Uganda. You know, you don't need you apply the same visa across the region. So that also applies to the investment. So the investment policy, which is really at the regional level, can help in terms of saying, as we talk about investments, as we talk about incentives, which ones that we say, if you have this license as someone who's investing in East Africa, you can have access to these business incentives. So it can really be, in addition, we strongly believe that it can bring on board incremental investments or incremental FDIs, especially as we keep marketing these countries in the region as part of the bloc. So that's on that aspect of the investment. I'm not sure if that that's what that you probably wanted to understand, but that's really from a perspective. I would say.
Absolutely, thank you so much, Zephany. I think most of the questions that I'm seeing on our platforms have been ably responded to by our panelists, and let me thank everyone for taking their time to attend our webinar. It's the first day. There's a follow-up day tomorrow to hear from the rest of the other partner states, and we look forward to more. But maybe before I close, I would wish to have Dr. Peter Mathuki, the CEO, please to give us a bit of a closing remark for today, as we leave people to go for their lunch. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Geoffrey, and I want to appreciate all the presenters. I think this was an eye-opener. Indeed, we have known a lot, and for those who are attending for the first time, I'm sure you've known the opportunities that are existing within the partner states of the EAC. Look at how we are advantaged as East African community and the partner states. So if we can now synergize all those benefits, all those opportunities, and now focus East Africa as a single market, how then it would be good for this region. And I want to, of course, taking time, the investment authorities and all those who are presented. I'm telling you, some of the things that you learn from Zanzibar to what Tanzania, gives when you come to investments, and how their growth, focus has been, of course, irrespective of whether COVID was there and all that. I think that is quite encouraging. Uganda, the opportunities that exist and the issues that are there, I think we really appreciate all that. Rwanda, the efforts that you're making to ensure that you attract more investors. And therefore, I think going forward, we'd want to start thinking, and at least this could be a challenge for all the investment authorities. How can you jointly market East Africa as a single destination? And therefore, I think as EABC, that becomes our responsibility to work with you and see how we can come up with a model that markets East Africa. And I totally agree with the last speaker from Rwanda. Indeed, we still be using the facilities, using the common market protocol and the legal instruments within the treaty of trying to have one single trading visa for the entire region that is already existing, and I think is enjoyed by Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya. I'm sure these are some of the things we could focus on. And the huge, I'm telling you, some of the raw materials that we get and that are being used to process goods in other parts of the world, they are coming from East Africa. Look at how rich countries are, the minerals that exist in Tanzania. I tell you, these are some of the benefits I'm saying we are advantaged to have as East Africa. So I want to thank all of you. Tomorrow, this session will be proceeding. We'll be listening to other countries. Kenya will be tomorrow. Ethiopia, Republic of DRC will also be there. We'll be listening into South Sudan as well. We'll also be listening to Republic of Burundi and all that, so that we can have a total information on what is existing within East Africa. But whatever information that we have, we'll be able to share with our members. And for all those who are willing to participate and invest in any of the countries of East Africa, so you get in touch with us at the East African Business Council, and you'll be there for you. I thank you very much and have a good afternoon. Bon appetit. I hope, Geoffrey, you are serving members lunch. You take advantage of this being virtual. You can also serve virtual lunch. Yeah. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not free lunch. The fact that they'll come back tomorrow. I'll serve them a half meal today, but a full meal tomorrow as they return.
But I've seen Daniel. Lema. Lema is wanting to ask a query. Lema from Tanzania Investments, TIC. Sorry, I thought maybe it was wrong. Sorry.
Not sir. It became erroneously. So I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Asanteni sana na mchana mwema. Asanteni sana. Good day and good afternoon.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, EABC team. Thank you, dear delegates. Thank you, participants. Thank you, panelists. I will look forward to seeing you again tomorrow and have a very, very lovely day ahead of you. Bye.